living in a time when nobody seems to care. It's like we've lost our minds. You take a look at me.
Okay, so today we're discussing Christmas. We'll start off by asking, what have you guys heard about Christmas? Or any myths or whatever.
It was Jesus' birthday, and that's why we celebrate it, because it was the birth of Christ. That's what I've been thinking for about 40 years.
That we celebrate it because it's Jesus' birthday.
It's the birth of Christ.
It's the birth of Christ.
And Jesus is the reason for the season.
Jesus is the reason for the season. Keep Christ in Christmas.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Well, for me, it's the same thing, of course. But, as you study the Word, you find out origins of everything. But for me, it matched my faith. I was searching for the Immaculate Birth, the facts on that. So, my mom was my teacher, when it came to the man upstairs, as far as it went. And so anything I wanted to find out, I had to search. And when I would find different sides of everything, once you look past the pagan, like that's a stance, it didn't negate the fact that he was born a virgin. And that was one of the first things that my oldest child, I won't say got stuck on, but that's what her thing was. And I couldn't, faith is what you cannot see. So it was something I had to guide her. Well, I didn't really guide her. I just listened to her. And then one day she finally said, Mama, that was real.
Yeah. And see, the thing is, I think what we have to understand about God is we don't have to beat people over the head with it. The Bible says some water, some plant, but God gives the increase, right? So sometimes all you have to do is just plant that seed. And it'll, at some point, it's going to make sense. I thought I saw somebody over there. At some point, it's going to make sense. Okay, now you say the Immaculate Conception, is that what you said?
Yes, that's
okay.
what I was teaching, when you're teaching the virgin birth. So, the teenagers or the young kids, they got 100 questions and they're not trying to stump you, but they don't know. And they're just like, don't make sense. I can't see that.
Actually, this is my first year not doing it, actually. And, my kids was always, I told my 18-year-old, and once I told her about it, she was fine. I thought it was going to be hard, but it really wasn't. And even down to the smaller kids, I think we make more of Christmas and kind of pump them more than they actually know. It's like birthdays or whatever. They know that's their birthday. They may want something to do something, but after that, it's kind of over. We do all the, buying and planning. The same thing with Christmas. When I say, ooh, tree, then they like, tree. Because like I said, when I told it to my 8-year-old, it's like, my 7-year-old, we going to Walmart now. Of course, anytime we go to Walmart, it don't have to be Christmas. She see gifts and, Mom, look at that baby though. So she wants stuff all year because that's just kids. But, like the decoration and stuff, I told her about it when we walk in now. So if you're at Walmart, the whole section is Christmas stuff. And she don't even ask no more. She used to. Like, we go get a tree. We go, because we, born, I told her. We wasn't doing it, whatever she had. I said, when we go to Walmart, she don't say nothing. But she still asks for gifts, of course. Because like I said, she do that all year.
That's what I was saying. Once you get past all the pagan aspects of Christmas and your children have to look at you with another hat on, you're their Sunday school teacher and there's all these other ones in there. And you're nothing that you're talking about is talking about a tree or decorations or any of that. God has a set appoint time. It's matching what you do at home, but it's that set time. And boy, like I said, you can't, it's like that post you said, you stand on the word. My intent was not to sway them away from anything their parents was teaching, but thus what come up. If it's something different, then they would have to go home and,
right.
become a teacher.
And a lot of times, let me explain something. When you are teaching something different, when you say something that's different, it's going to be a problem. And a lot of people will attack you for that because a lot of people don't want to get away from what they've their traditions are.
Because it's so comfortable. It's been going on so long.
Right.
The kids were wanting to learn.
Right. And we have a responsibility to speak the truth, no matter what. So even if you are attacked for it or whatever, that's why I say you stand on the word of God. You don't. It's not what Derek says. That's why I show people in the Bible what the scripture says. Luke 2 and 1, starting at verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth, unto Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem." Okay, because he was of the house of the lineage of David. All right. Verse 5, "To be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child." So what's going on is we see that a census was going on. So everybody had to go wherever they were from so they could be counted. Okay. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. So she had the baby while she was there. "And she brought forth her firstborn son and wrapped him in swaddling cloths and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn." And in this means it's a lodging place. So it said that they laid Jesus in a what? In a manger. Okay. Now verse 8 says, "And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, watching over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling cloth, lying in a manger." Okay, so let's drop down. Okay, drop down to 15. 15 says that, "And it came to pass, as the angels were going away from them into heaven, the shepherds said one to another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is come to pass, which the Lord had made known unto us." 16, "And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph, and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad, saying, which was told to them concerning this child." So we see over and over that the baby was what? Lying in a what? In a manger. Okay, but notice we don't see a date. You don't see a date, right? And like I said, the thing is, this study is going to be amazing, because most of y'all know by now I speak against tradition, because there are a lot of things that we just pick up along the way and just accept, and without knowing, just adding stuff. But you have to, because here's the thing, you have to keep it based on the word of God, because God is intentional. His word is specific. It's intentional. It has a purpose. When you start allowing other things in it, you get away from what God has intended. Y'all understand that? So watch this. Now, like I said, we see that the baby, Jesus, is firstborn. He's lying in a manger. Okay? So you can write on your papers for that what we just did in Luke. We see the baby was in a manger, no date. And this is when Jesus was first born. He's lying in a manger. They told the shepherds that they will find him lying in a manger, but we do not see a date. Okay? So now when we go to Matthew, starting at verse 1, it says, "Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem." Now, in Luke, who was visited? Shepherds. Now, in Matthew, we're seeing that wise men came, right? Now, who were these wise men? I found out they were called magi. And actually, I brought this. Let me give y'all This is the only purpose of this this little handout here, because I want you guys to be able to see. We see, if you look at it, you see the Roman Empire on the left, correct? On the right-hand side, you see the Parthian Empire, okay? And in the middle, where that buffer zone is, okay, that's what we're dealing with. That's where Herod and them were. There was a constant conflict between the Roman Empire and the Parthian Empire, okay? So, and this is important because this is going to come into play with these wise men. Now, here's the thing. With the wise men, the Magi were they were Medes, right? So Babylonians. Okay, I don't know how much you guys know, but okay. So the thing is, and they had a dual role. They had a role. They had like a priesthood, inherited priesthood, just like Judaism, because they kind of parallel the Magi and the Judaism. They had an inherited priesthood, but also they had a dual role, which is they were part of the government as well, right? And it was said that the Magi, that magistrate, came from Magi. You know, I didn't find that. I just heard Missler mention that, and it kind of made sense. So I'm saying that that's what he said. I didn't find it, but it makes sense. Okay, so now it says that, let me read that verse again. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem. Okay, so these wise men come to Magi, and the Magi, let me say this. The main thing was they interpreted dreams. Anybody know who Daniel was in the Bible? No, Daniel. Okay. Well, Daniel was over the Magi. Okay. All right. So they interpreted dreams. That was their thing. So, but they also had the authority to choose the king, the new kings. All right. So remember, the Roman Empire and the Parthian Empire was fighting. Okay. So what? Now these wise men have come from the Parthian Empire to that buffer zone right there to Herod. Okay. So, verse 2 says, saying, where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. So watch this. It says that he was troubled, right? Let's go back. How many wise men were there? I heard 3. I heard 3 wise men. Anybody else?
And there were 3 gifts.
Because there were 3 gifts. Right? Because there was 3 gifts. But what does the Bible say? Does the Bible say how many? No. Now let's and this is how we break down these untruths. It says that in verse 3, when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Now let me explain something to you. If it was 3 men, do you think that Herod and all of the people would have been afraid? Because you have to understand, the Parthian Empire, they're basically coming into enemy territory. You see what I'm saying? They're basically coming into enemy territory, so therefore they're gonna come in with force. Y'all with me? Mm-hmm. So, like I said, they had the Magi had the authority to choose who? The king. Right? Y'all understand that? So when they came in and say, when they said, where is he that is born King of the Jews? Remember, they have the authority to choose the king. So this is like a slight on them that they're doing. And this is why Herod and the people are afraid. Because you have to understand now, let me tell you something about Herod. Herod was not a Jew. Okay? Herod was not a Jew. So guess what? For a while, let me give you a little history. I don't want to give you too much. That'll be confusing. But for a while, Herod couldn't even go back home. He was king of the Jews, but he couldn't go because they had the Parthian Empire had control of that land. So he was king. He was basically in exile. He couldn't go back. So now that he's back, they've come to visit him. Now he's afraid because really he may be thinking that, okay, they're going to get rid of me. Y'all understand that? So this is why the people were afraid. So let's go to verse 4. And when they had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. So what Herod did is Herod got all of the priests and the scribes, and he started asking them, hey, where is Jesus supposed to be born? Where's the Savior supposed to be born? That's what he's doing. Because remember, he's not a Jew. That's why he doesn't know. Right? And they said unto him, in Bethlehem of Judea, for thus is written by the prophet. Right? And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, art not the least among the princes of Judah. For out of thee shall come a governor that shall rule my people. When we go to Micah 5:2, it says, but thou, Bethlehem, Ephrathah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from everlasting. So this is the way it has been. So that's what they were saying in Matthew when they were saying they was as spoke of the prophet. They was talking about in Micah where it was prophesied. Because here's what we have to understand. Because a lot of things do not just appear in one place. And especially when you come from the Old Testament to the New Testament, a lot of things are foretold. And the thing about prophecy is prediction and then fulfillment. Prediction and fulfillment always happen with prophecy. Okay, so let's get back to
You said, well, the Bible says in all verse 3, and all Jerusalem with him. Why are they saying the people, or are they just saying?
Yes, the people. Because the wise men, you got to realize, okay, let me explain this. Back in that time, what was happening is you had a lot of dynasties. People were conquering different territories. You understand that? Mm-hmm. That's what was happening in that time. Mm-hmm. So when you see, because that's what I'm saying, it wasn't 3 wise men. Mm-hmm. They came with force. Plus, they already been fighting. You know what I'm saying? This is the buffer zone. So the Roman Empire and the Parthian Empire, they've been going at it. So when you see them show up, you know, you can be afraid that, okay, they're about to, because you have to understand too, when you're conquered, then what? They instate a new rule. So you have to, a lot of times you become slaves to whoever conquer you. You understand? Mm-hmm. So that's why all of them were afraid.
I was just thinking, since it was prophesied, that's why I was saying, well, why would the people be afraid?
Because here's what they're afraid of. They're not afraid of prophecy. They're afraid of the wise men that came. You see? So when they showed up and asked Herod, hey, where this king at? You know what I'm saying? Where's this king at? You know, because we want to worship him. Him knowing history, what's been going on, he's already been in exile before. Same people. So now they're coming to him, where's this king? And he knows the authority that they have to choose a king. So when they come and ask him, where is the king? He know that they didn't choose the king. Y'all understand that? So that's why he's afraid. And a lot of times when the leader is afraid, everybody else is going to be afraid too. When we go back to in the Bible with Saul and David. Remember when Goliath was torturing the children of Israel? Saul was afraid, and guess what? Everybody else is afraid too. Mm-hmm. You see? Because most of the time that's how it is. The leader is the one that has that power. And he's the one that instills in everybody else, fight. A good leader is going to be able to instill that in you and encourage you, come on, let's get this done. But if the leader is saying that I don't know about this, then everybody else is going to be like that too.
The Bible says it flows from the head down.
From the head down. Verse 11. Let's drop down to 11. It says, and when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshiped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So watch this. This is why people thought it was 3, because of the gifts that they gave. Because it was 3 gifts. It tells us 3 gifts. But listen and watch this. It tells us it was at least 3 gifts. And see, the reason why it covers those 3 gifts, because these gifts were supposed to be gifts for a king. You know, you gave them gold medal, frankincense, perfume, and the myrrh for the anointing oil. And this goes back to, I don't know if you have Isaiah 60:6 on your paper.
Yeah.
So Isaiah 60:6, read that, Solanda.
The multitude of camels shall cover thee, the
Dromedaries.
of Midian and Ephah. All they from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and incense, and they shall show forth the praises of the Lord.
All right. So we see that. Remember, prophecy is that prediction, the prophecy, prediction, and then fulfillment. Okay. So this was in Isaiah. It foretold of this. Okay. So watch this. Let's go back. Verse 11 says, "And when they were coming to the what?
Into the house.
Into the house." So who are we talking about? We're talking about the wise men, right? Before the shepherds went into the what?
The manger.
The manger. So now we move from a manger to the house.
Yes.
How long has passed in between that?
Years.
We don't know.
Time.
Some time has passed, but we don't know. You see what I'm saying? But still, no date. Right? Okay, so we've identified that, okay, the Bible does not say a date. All the Bible says is that he was born. Does not give us a date. We've eliminated that it was 3 wise men. No, it talks about 3 gifts. Okay? And just, huh? It doesn't give us a season, but watch this. I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna come back and show you something later on about the season. Okay, I'm gonna come back. We're not gonna overlook that. So now the wise men have saw Jesus in the house. Okay, so now we're gonna start. Let's go into birthdays and celebrate. Now guess what? This study is it may do something to you, because the thing about the truth, when you're exposed to the truth, now it creates a conflict. Do you continue what you're doing, or do you change since you know something different? And guess what? This may be something that may be difficult for all of us, because when something is a part of your life that's been, like you say, 40 years, you've been celebrating this, you know, and now all of a sudden I got to change. I don't know. I would rather not know. You see what I'm saying? Or it can't be that bad. I've been doing it all of this time. See, that's how we try to reason with God. But the thing about God, God has given his instructions, and he never said, okay, deviate from it. Okay, but let's get involved. Let's jump into this. So where did birthdays come from? Now, initially birthdays were linked to the stars, because since there was no calendar, did y'all know that? The calendar didn't come along to about roughly 8,000 years ago. Y'all know that? So watch this. Since there was no calendar, you couldn't celebrate a birthday. All right. So initially the importance of birthdays were after the calendar and stuff came, how it came along was to enable astrologers to chart horoscopes. Now we're gonna start seeing something else. All right. Now, so watch this. I said that calendars came along how long ago? 7,000, 8,000 years ago. So everything before that, where's the record of it? Watch this. They have record of it, but they don't have years. So what has happened is they begin to speculate of the time. And do you guys know, I don't know if anybody has ever studied archaeology in here, but you know what they use to date something when they find something? What do they use? They use artifacts if the artifacts are available. They use the dirt on top. It says that, okay, when civilizations are buried, they could tell by the layers of dirt and how deep it is, right? But watch this. Carbon dating. So they say, right. Carbon dating is what is used to, like they say, they found Lucy so many million years old, right? Carbon dating. But the thing about carbon dating is it's not 100% accurate. See, because people, here's the thing, God established time. He did that in Genesis with the sun with day and night. He established time, right? And their system was set up on the cycles of the moon. All of that is in the Bible. But what happened is the world, when the world came along, see, they didn't accept God, what God said, because God's instruction was only to who? His people. So the world was outside that, so they created their own thing. Right? Because the Bible, people say that the Bible doesn't list years. The Bible lists years. It also lists dates. It doesn't list a continual year. Y'all understand that? Because when you see Noah in the flood, Noah was 900 years old, 600 years old? 900? Which one? He was 900 to 600 years old. The Bible tells us that he was that age. You see? But that's how the Bible tells us. When the Bible talked about coming out of Egypt, he said, this shall be the first month. This shall be the first day of the first month. So it lets you know that at that point, it started over. The Bible says that's in the beginning. But we don't know when that beginning was. Y'all understand that? The Bible does. We just know that in the beginning, because God gave the record. And that's the only record that we have. Because even when you put science to this, when they talk about evolution, it doesn't hold weight. Because you say that, okay, well, now we reject that man just came. That God created man, and then the woman came from the man. But their theory is what came first, the chicken or the egg. But so according to their theory, man had to already be here in order to get another man. So that's why the theory doesn't hold weight. And even when you get into evolution, Darwin says survival of the fittest. So that means that only the strong survive. So if we evolved from apes and monkeys, how are there still apes and monkeys? That's why it's a theory, because it can't be proven. It can't be proven. It's a lie. But the thing is, when you get down to, there's a saying that says people will accept anything as long as it's not in the Bible. You get that? So they'll reject what's documented. And the Bible is the known truth, because they actually tested the Bible, tested these things with records. Yes. And if you did not know this, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in the 1900s. That's the original scrolls with the Bible. But guess what? It was like 70-something% or higher accurate. Y'all see that? So watch this. First Bible was produced in the 300s. So the Bible was written, the first Bible was put together in the 300s. They didn't find the scrolls until the 1900s. And it was upwards of 70% accurate. You know why it was that accurate? Because of the oral tradition. Because their tradition was they told everybody. They would gather them around and tell them the rules of God so that they would have it. And so this is why when it got to the scribes was able to write these things down. So you had the oral law and you had the written law. Right? Y'all with me, right? Okay, so that's how things were able to survive. Okay, y'all with me? All right. So now let's jump back into this. The birthday greetings and stuff, they were connected to, turn it off for me, to spells, and evil was the main spell. Evil was the main issues of it. So it was believed that on one's birthday, the greetings had power for good or bad, because your spirit was your soul was closer to the spirit world on your birthday. Now, this doesn't have to make sense. I'm going to tell you what it is, and then we'll go back and see how all of this comes. So they believe on your birthday, your spirit, your soul was closer to the spirit world. And so it went either way, good or bad. So you surrounded yourself with good people, happy birthday. Right? Instead of bad people, because if you had bad people there, then they would wish the bad luck on you. Right? Y'all get that? Even, watch this, even with the birthday licks, they believe that with birthday licks, it would beat the evil out you. Y'all see how crazy this is? But it doesn't have to make sense. We talking about way back then. It made us a lot of sense, because here's what I found out about people. And tell me if y'all agree. People will celebrate something. It doesn't have to be true. How many people like that in there?
I used to be. We used to celebrate Cinco de Mayo and don't have a clue.
But what about if you know it was a lie? Would you celebrate it?
Well, I did for years. I celebrated Christmas knowing the truth about it.
So watch this. Let me give you. We celebrate Columbus discovering America, knowing that Columbus didn't discover America, but yet every year it's a big thing. You see, so that shows you how the mind works. That's what happens.
It was a day off. It was a day to celebrate.
It's a day off, but the thing is, let me tell you something. Communication. I always say communication is verbal and nonverbal. So if you do not stand against something, then what? You approve it. If you know somebody, if we all of us in here and somebody doing something wrong, if some bad act was happening in there and nobody said anything, it's just like us going along with it. Y'all understand? And that's what happens, especially when it comes down to believers, because we become silent. We become silent. We're vocal in church, but outside of church, let me say nothing. All right, so let's get back to this. All right. The Greeks celebrated the birthday of the moon goddess, Artemis. Okay, that's what the Greeks said, and I'm gonna go through these different people. We understand civilization, right? The first civilization was the Egyptians. They had the great civilization first, and then they moved to Greek. Greek was a time of enlightenment when man really went from because God said so to them asking question why. And during that Greek Enlightenment period through Hellenism is when the time when they started to understand astrology, well, not astrology, but different things. This is when during Hellenism is time that they actually saw the moon and started documenting different things.
Was it
Okay.
called
Hellenism.
Hellenism?
Yeah. Hellenism. Yeah. Okay, so the Egyptians, since it was believed that the position of the stars at the time of birth influenced a child's nature, so astrological horoscopes, like I said before, came into being, and for the purpose of foretelling the future based on the time of birth. So based on that child's birth, alignment with the stars and stuff, they start predicting the future. And we understand what horoscope means even today. So this was back when horoscopes and stuff began. So the birthday gifts extended from offering sacrifices to the gods on their birthdays. They believed that it granted favors. Okay, y'all with me? If you're not with me, stop me so I can, we can elaborate on it. So we're starting to see how birthdays started to be celebrated, who was celebrating, and so forth. We're seeing that who's celebrating birthday. We said the Greeks, we said the Egyptians. Who are they? Because God's people were who? Israel. Okay, we're not seeing Israel celebrating this, right? Okay. The birthday cake and the candles also extended from the pagan idol worship. The fires from the candles were believed to have magical effects, and the flames of the candles carried the prayers and wishes to the gods. Y'all hearing this? Right? And like I said, we're so far away from it now when they had no idea of this.
Now I was about to say, but if they get wrong right there because they worshiping another god, right?
Well, but understand this. This is, right now, we're dealing with the outsiders. We're dealing with the Egyptians. We're dealing with the Greeks. That's what they did. Because you understand, polytheism. Y'all know what polytheism is? Many gods. So they had gods for everything. The first God established monotheism, that one God. That was so different about Christianity, what later became Christianity, but Judaism is that it was monotheism, one God. Okay, y'all get that? Okay, so we're seeing that the idolatry origins, but we haven't seen anything about Christ, his apostles, nor his followers observing birthdays yet. Okay, now watch. The Greeks believed that everyone had to protect spirit who attended his birth and watch over him in life. They believed that they had to protect the spirits now. The spirit had a mystic relationship with the God, especially on the birthday when the individuals was born. Okay, now for the Romans also came along and they kind of like bought into this concept as well. They celebrated birthdays as well. So here's the thing. So we see that the Romans celebrated the Greeks and the Egyptians, right? Now, here's what we know. We know as late as the 1st century, we know that Jewish traditions, because the children of Israel were Jews. Jewish traditions, the early church did not celebrate birthdays. And here's why. And we're going to go back. We're going to go back into the Bible too. But when we get to Josephus was a 1st century writer. Some people will say that Josephus is the one that created the Bible, but that's not true. He did not. He had nothing to do with creating the Bible. He just was a historian, you know, one of the greatest, the first and great historians of that time. So in his book, Against Appian, he wrote, "Nay, indeed, the law does not permit us to make festivals at the birth of our children, and therefore afford occasions of drinking to excess." So he let you know that we don't celebrate birthdays. Now, watch this. When did this happen? When did he write this? In the 1st century. Jesus was already dead.
Yeah, after Jesus.
So that means that, so we've gone through the whole Bible. Jesus is dead, and we're not celebrating birthdays. Okay, y'all with me? Right? So now, in the Bible, there are 2 mentions of birthday. Genesis 40 and 20. Somebody pull up Genesis 40 and 20. Go ahead.
Genesis 40 and 20. It said, "And it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday."
Pharaoh's what?
Birthday.
Who is Pharaoh?
A king of Egypt. I think.
Of where?
Egypt.
Of Egypt. Okay, go ahead.
Pharaoh's birthday. That he made a feast unto all his servants.
Okay.
And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and the chief baker among his servants.
Okay, so we're seeing that the first mention of birthday in the Bible is for Pharaoh. Okay, who was what? He was Egyptian. He was not one of the people of God. Right?
Right.
Okay. But that lines up with, we've already said that the Egyptians celebrated birthdays, right? Let's go to Matthew 4 and 6. 14 and 6, I'm sorry.
But when Herod's
Herod's what?
birthday was kept, the
Okay.
daughter of
Herodias.
Herodias danced before them and pleased Herod.
Okay, so now the second mentioning is Herod's birthday. Herod was what? I told you before that Herod was what? He was not a Jew. Right? We said that before. Herod was not a Jew. So we see Pharaoh and we see Herod. The only 2 mentionings of birthday in the Bible, and neither one of them was people of God. Josephus told us that, hey, we don't celebrate, there's no celebration at the birth of our children. Okay? So this is remaining consistent. Jesus, we read his birth, it never said a date. Right? Because understand this. Don't you think if as important as Jesus was, and as detailed as the Bible is, don't you think God would have gave us the birth if we were to celebrate that? Right? He would have gave us the date to celebrate Jesus. But let me mess with your imagination. Let me tell you another reason why it's not proper to celebrate his birthday. Why? Because birth is what?
The beginning.
Your beginning. So what is Jesus' beginning?
He have no beginning.
He has no beginning. Because John 1 and 1 says that what? In the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. And that Word is Jesus. So that lets you know that in the beginning, he was with God as the Word of God. He was the spoken Word of God. So you can't come along 1,633 years roughly ago and say that this is his beginning because he already existed. Y'all understand that? It wouldn't make sense. He already existed. And see, this is why people that are in the world that don't understand, this is what they have a problem with, trying to figure that out. How is he God? How is he Jesus? How because of that. But let's get back into this. Okay, those were the 2 times for who? Who were the 2 people that had a birthday in the Bible? Herod and Pharaoh. And I'm sure that if people were celebrating birthdays, it would have been listed in the Bible. But like I said, Josephus proved us that it didn't happen. You got a question?
Yeah, if I could interject, I believe the Bible makes reference to a birthday with Job and his people. Well, the Bible says that they gathered together, each person on their day.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, me personally, I believe that that was a reference to.
Yeah, it can be.
Celebration.
It can be. But okay, so here's what we have to take into consideration too. There are times when we start picking up stuff that we're not supposed to pick up. Because we see that even with the children of Israel, they adopted a lot of stuff from surrounding areas that they wasn't supposed to adopt. You see what I'm saying? Go ahead.
And even in Job, when it mentioned his kids celebrated on their day, he fasted and he prayed because he knew that it was something that they were into things that, so he covered them.
Mm-hmm.
Even when it mentioned on their day that he covered them if they had sinned, anything they was doing or thinking or then did anything, he kept them covered. And I don't know if because they celebrated things that wasn't known to Israel, but it do mention that Job even kept them covered and they celebrated.
Right, because you have to understand that, see, while all of this was going on, there was still an outside world. You see? And what God always demanded us was to be separate from that. Because you in the world, but you're not of the world. Right? So it's impossible. We know what's going on. You know, with our saved self or whatever, we still know what's going on in the world. You see what I'm saying? And like I said, there's a fine line. And it's quite simple to step over that line. Especially the easiest thing is doing what? Fun. Celebration. That's the easiest thing to do because you're laughing. You don't think about what's really going on. You see what I'm saying? So, but you're right. But you got to realize, like I said, what did God intend? So watch this. Jeremiah 10:2. It says, "Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them." Don't celebrate what they're doing. You see that? That was the instructions from God. Leviticus 18:26 and 27. Leviticus 18:26 and 27.
And ye shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations, neither any of your own nation, nor any stranger that sojourneth among you.
Okay, so stop right there. He said, God is saying what? Keep who? Keep my statute and judgments. That's what he's saying. Keep my statutes and judgments. All right? And don't commit these abominations, because the abominations were what? The thing that they were doing. Right? Neither any of your own nation. So you don't create anything either. And see, that's why I said God is intentional. He's specific with what he gave you everything to celebrate. So he's saying don't celebrate anything that they're doing, and you don't make anything up to celebrate either. Keep going. And don't let nobody come in, among you and bring it into you either.
Verse 27. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, and the land is defiled.
What land are we talking about?
Is he talking about the land of Canaan when he said
The promised land. We're talking about the promised land.
Yeah, ain't that Canaan?
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. So the land was defiled because what? They didn't by all the stuff that was happening that wasn't of God, right? So watch this. Let me give y'all something too. The beginning of 26 says these statutes and judgments. What were the purpose of those statutes and judgments? Because who did they come from?
You said who did they?
Who gave them the statutes and judgment? I know they were inspired by God, but who? Moses. Moses gave the statutes and judgments to the children of Israel before they get ready to go into the land, right? And the purpose of those statutes and judgments was what?
For them to keep.
And why were they to keep them?
To get into the promised land.
to get into the promised land. But why were they to keep them in the promised land?
God
Because
is
it was
holy.
holy.
Because it was holy. Because the land was holy.
I think after that, that's what I think I'm reading now about Joshua.
Joshua laid them in. Yeah, Joshua laid them in.
Holy.
Right, but that was
after Moses.
that was
died,
Moses.
They put Joshua
Right.
in charge.
Right.
So and I remember in the scripture I was reading, they told him to take off his shoes because that ground was holy. But they were speaking of
The Lord was talking.
Jericho, and God, he was going into Jericho, and
Right. Yeah, because they had battles and stuff. Joshua had a battle of Jericho. Right. You understand? But here's what happened. Let me tell you. Y'all stay with me for a second. The land was promised to the children of Israel. So, but the people thought, okay, now God showed them all kind of signs to let them know. Now, remember, at the time, God was establishing who he was with them. And also, he has to take away what they've learned in Egypt, which is why the scripture said, thou shalt have no other gods before me. He was talking about because in Egypt, they worship the dead and stuff. They worship these different gods. So he was taking all of that away from him. He establishing who he was. And part of that establishment was all the signs and stuff that they did. You know, all these wonders when he lead the plagues, even with the Dead Sea, Red Sea. Right. Okay, so all this that he done, but when they got to the land, okay, so they marched them out in the wilderness for 40 years. They never was hungry. Their shoes never wore out. He fed them every day. They always had light every day, but they still missed that. So when they get to the promised land and God sent out the spies, they was like, oh no, we can't take these people. And it was only Joshua and Caleb that said that we could take them, which is how Joshua became, because he had the heart of God. Y'all understand? Y'all with me? Okay. So, but yeah, the statutes and judgment was for the land because the land was holy. And even later on, when we do a study on tithing, that's going to come into play. Because that land was holy, that's why the tithing was from the land and not the money. All right, so watch this. So let's go to let's see. Okay, so where we at? Okay, we see no birthdays for the people of God. Let's see. We see that the date of Jesus' birth is not listed. In any book, it's not listed at all. Now the reference to, as we were saying earlier, the reference to the shepherds tending to their flock. The reference to the shepherds tending to their flocks at night when they heard the news of Jesus in Luke 2:8. Now this suggests that it was the lambing season. Okay, and I found out that female sheep they usually they're pregnant for like 149 days. Okay, but they mate in the fall so that they can give birth in the spring. But like I said, the bottom line is his birthday is not listed. Now, how did we get to December 25th? Okay, watch this. Here's where it get interesting. The winter solstice is the day where it's the shortest time between the sun rising and setting. Okay? And it happens around December 21st, December 22nd. Okay? So the pagans, it meant that the winter was over and that the spring was coming, and they had a festival to celebrate, and they worshiped the sun. Okay? They worshiped the sun's victory over the winter. All right? Pay attention to this. So the Romans, and this is what we're going to really focus on, the Roman festival of Saturnalia was a week-long celebration that happened around December 17th to December 23rd. Okay, and it honored the Roman god Saturn, who was the god of agriculture, because now, in the springtime was when your crops and stuff are growing, right? So this is who they're worshiping. Now this festival was a time of feasting, drunkenness, gambling, sacrifices, and public nudity. All of this was happening with that time, with that festival, because Roman people were what? They were pagan. Sound like Mardi Gras. And Mardi Gras has a tie to that. Mardi Gras has a time to that. It really does. But that's what was going on. So they made sacrifice and all of that because it said that even after they did all of this stuff, it was like the laws was lax during this time. They did whatever they wanted to do, and then after it was over, there was a period of purging, which they sacrificed somebody to the god, and that sacrifice cleansed them of all of that they did. So let me tell you something. Movies are not always fake. A lot of movies are real. When they present it, it's so real that people miss it. So even with the purge, you see what I'm saying? A lot of these things you have to, when you know about history, you'll start seeing the parallels. You see what I'm saying? So it was kind of like the purge, like one day a year you had the purge okay. All right. So anyway, orgy also came from this time. Orgy was it meant secret worship. And so the sexual rituals that were practiced during this thing, the Christians had a problem with it. Here we go with the church folk, all right? They had a problem with this. Now, and the god that ruled the celebration, Teresa, was Bacchus. Bacchus is the god of wine. And all of us from New Orleans know Bacchus is one of the biggest parades. But a lot of those parades are Roman, Greek gods and stuff. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That we partake in, we celebrate without knowing. You see what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
Bacchus, the god of wine. Listen, because here's the thing. Do you understand that when you celebrate something, whether you agree with whatever the occasion is, you still agree with it. You're still participating in it. And when you participate in something, you go along with it. I'm a part of it. Right? You see how they go? You're always representing something. Right? Now, what is crazy is the church has become so intertwined in things of the world that most of your church people ain't going to see nothing wrong with it. So now let's go back to Rome. The first recorded date of Christmas was celebrated on December 25th in the year 336. Okay? And it was in the time of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Okay? He was the first Christian Roman emperor. Constantine. Everybody that study history should know Constantine. All right. Later, Pope Julius I officially declared that day as the birth of Jesus. All right. So watch what's happening. Now we've come along. We're 300 years after Jesus has died, and they're establishing this day as his birthday. So I guess Jesus didn't celebrate it, but they felt the need to celebrate for him. Y'all, right? No, 336. Okay, so now as for Saturnalia, this celebration was still being celebrated as late as 448, the year 448 AD. It was still recognized and celebrated. So, they were still celebrating the church. And here's what you're going to find out about the church. No, I'm going to come back to that later. Okay, watch this. So early Christians, what they tried to do, and here's what we noticed with a lot of the things. We noticed it with Halloween, even with Easter and stuff like that. The church, All Saints Day, the church takes the pagan holidays and embraces it, brings it into the church and try to put Jesus in it. You see what I'm saying? But what are we really celebrating? You're celebrating their holiday. You can't take that which is unclean and make it clean. See, even when you go back to the land, the statutes and the ordinance, judgment for the land, they had to get rid of the people. Go kill all of them because they're unclean. So how do you, and Jesus saying, be ye separate, be ye separate. How are you going to take it in and accept it? You can't be separate doing what they do. It's impossible. If you see our job as the light of the world is to shine the light in darkness. But guess what? When we go down and hang in the darkness, guess what? We don't have a light. We don't have a light. That light is diffused. They're gonna buffer that light. That light is retarded. You see what I'm saying? Because now, how can I get down here and I'm hanging with everybody? We selling drugs. We robbing people, and then all of us, I want to tell you about Jesus. You understand what I'm saying? How? You ruin your witness. You hang with us, you're doing the same thing. Oh, now I can pass that way where they're doing that all the time and not partake in it. And guess what? And at a certain point, if they in need or whatever, hurt or broken, they may say, hey, hey, Derek, you could pray for me. You could, because you know why? I didn't mingle with that. And I was always different. Y'all get that? And a lot of times the problem with the church is down there hanging, and watch this. What they do is they justify their actions by saying, I've been in church all of this time. And I mean, I do it. So now you're justifying your wrong to somebody that's trying to say, I don't know, should I? But if I'm seeing you, I see you in church every Sunday, and you down here with me, what? Why I gotta change?
You know, I was trying to figure out what you was talking about, like if they're selling drugs and robbing or whatever, how would you put it? You can't go down there and talk to them.
No, I'm saying you can't hang with them. How you think about if you a drug? Say like if I sell drugs and I'm a murderer, you think I can tell you about Jesus?
Yeah, you can.
No, you ain't gonna hear it.
Let me tell you something. Yeah. When it's your time to hear it, you gonna hear it.
You're right. When it's your time to hear it.
So I mean, you might not hear it right then and there, but if I'm constantly telling you something, they got a thing that's called self-awareness and self-belief, and you got to learn on your own. So that means, all right, I've been coming down and talking to you, but you still wasn't listening. But my job is to come and shine the light. So whether you listening or not listening, this what I'm supposed to do. So I do that. Now I ain't saying I'm hanging down there, but I gotta go down there and mingle with them to teach.
But wait, watch what you just said. You said I'm not hanging down them. I was saying that you can't go down there and hang with them and then try to teach them. See, what you're doing is you're reaching them from the outside in.
Right,
you can't reach them from the inside.
Let me show you something. You know who changed the crib? Remember they had they was all out in war, and who put a cease to it for I think about 10 or 5 years. It was they stopped really feuding with each other.
Truce and nine dudes.
Right. The dude who was in it, when he got out of jail, he went and told to him.
But no, Tuki didn't get out of jail.
Tuki said another dude that got out and went and talked to him. And when he went and talked to him, I mean, it ain't happened right then and there, but he got him to see well, once what it was, they respected the word coming from your boy.
Okay, but watch this.
Once they really found out it came from him, then they did it. So I mean, you know.
Yeah, but here's the difference though. You're talking about a gang situation. You're talking about things that are gang affiliated. But watch this. When it comes to God,
I'm talking about a change.
But no,
it doesn't matter what the situation.
No. Listen, wait. But it's a difference when it's coming from God.
But a change is a change.
But you can change for different reasons. But that doesn't have anything to do with God. You can change that has nothing to do with God. But we're talking about how God operates. You see what I'm saying? The difference. It's just like this. Watch this. If you tell, and he say, I want a tattoo, and you say you can't get no tattoos, the first thing she gonna say, you got a tattoo.
All right, time. Another thing. All right, who you think goes back in the prisons and start preaching? How many prisons how many people goes into prison teaching the Bible again? And it's people that have been in jail that goes back, because you don't get too many people that haven't been in jail going in there.
But watch this though. You know what you're saying the difference is? There still was a separation and then they went back.
It's not a separate, it's awareness and it's an understanding.
What you're speaking of is identification.
I mean, but everybody knows the separation, because first of all, the change, you got to separate.
That's the difference.
With the same people and change.
But that's the major thing. That's the major thing, because understand this. If I just got through robbing you, I ain't giving you no word. You ain't gonna want to hear no word. That's the cat that just robbed me. Talking about Jesus. What Jesus was when he robbed me. That's what I'm saying. Now, it's a difference between me going, get my life together as a former robber, and I go back and say, hey, man, listen, he did it for me. He could do it for you. You don't have to live like that. That's different. Now, what's going to happen is, now, here's what you're saying. See, here's how God operates. God uses what we've been through to deliver other people. But watch, in the church, they become hypocritical, because I used to be on drugs. I've been in here for a few Easters. You know, I'm looking nice. Don't tell nobody I was on drugs no more. You see what I'm saying? That's the difference. Because if Well, I'm relatable, so it's different. But most pastors, they'll be like, he don't understand this, he don't understand the struggle, so you can't reach him. But guess what? If that pastor come and say, hey,
y'all don't hear me.
I've been there. See, when I say you was there too, guess what? Now I want to listen. I want to hear what you guys say. Knowing that you a gang member, that's street cred. You know, we know how the street run. You know what I'm saying? Even if they somehow, in order to reach street folk, you're going to have some kind of street credibility. Either you was there or you a real cat. You understand what I'm saying? What you was about to say?
This reminds me in the Bible when Paul, and I don't know who Paul was with, but the lady who she was a soothsayer, and she was following Paul, and she was telling the people in that area to listen to these men. These are the real men of God. And Paul turned around and rebuked her, and he told her to shut up. And when I studied that, I'm like, shut up. Why? Because they listened to her because they will go to her. This woman was known in the area. So, and she telling those people that know her well to listen. But he rebuked her because they do know you. But I want them to know that you ain't changed your life. You can't witness to what I'm doing. Even though you're saying the right thing, I'm going to shut you up. Because guess what? When Paul gone, they may come to her to find out. So the thing is, we have to change. We can't still have our hands in the mud and want to pull somebody out the mud. We gotta cleanse ourselves, get ourselves right in order to pull. Go back and read. Look, he even told Peter, when you are converted, go back and strengthen your brothers.
He didn't say
Don't
now.
go now. He said, when you are converted, let a change come over you and go back and strengthen your brothers.
And watch this. And to piggyback on what she said, imagine. So just think about the communication aspect of it. If she would have approved Paul. See, because they know who she is. So if she approved him, then guess what? That put her and Paul together.
She must be real
Whatever
too.
she do.
You see what I'm saying? So that's why it has to be. That's why that change is important, that you be from the outside in. So watch this. Okay.
I have a little passage. Well, it's talking about when the woman was being condemned for committing adultery. Okay, so that's after that. This is verse 12, John 8. Then spake Jesus again to them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that follows me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. This is going to everything you're saying. The Pharisees therefore say unto him, Thou bearest witness of thyself, thy record is not true. Jesus answered and said unto them, Though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came and whither I go. But you cannot tell whence I come and where I go. You judge after the flesh, and I judge no man. And on and on. So it's just going from he's the light.
So he was separating himself.
It even went all the way down, and it was saying, and yet if I judge, my judgment is true, for I am not alone, but I and the Father that sent me. He is connected.
He was establishing who he was. Now watch this. Let me tell you something. He said that he's the light of the world. Let's segue back into this with remember it was the sun's conquering of the winter, right? That's what they were celebrating, right? The church saw it as, since Jesus is the light of the world, they tried to replace the sun god with Jesus. Did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
So you can't tell me what I'm doing. So that's important. Now let me go over these different gods that were celebrated during this time. We know about Saturn. Okay, Saturnalia was the festival, but that was Saturn. Now Saturn was equivalent to the Greek god Cronus, the son of Uranus. All right. Then you had Ops, was the Mother Earth, goddess of plenty. Sol Invicta was the sun god. Consus, the god of storebrand, the harvested grain. Juventus was the goddess of young. You had Janus, which was the solar god of daybreak, creator god. That's where we get January from, Janus. Okay, Bacchus, which was the god of wine, the party and stuff. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 8 guys that were celebrated during the same time.
All that was in December.
All that was in December. Most of them was all on December 25th. So watch. So now, because you understand about God, God has always been separate. God has never fit into how everything else was done. So you done took and you done added God to this mix. So you know what it does. Just like I said about the lady validating Paul, it's lost credibility. You see? So that's why people saying, because once again, the Bible never said December 25th. But that's why the people that know, atheists and stuff that know that Jesus wasn't born on that day and know about all these other, that's why they say it's a copy. It's a copy. But guess what? It was an inside job because the church, the one that actually put them on there. Now, also, I forgot there was one other. So let's go with 9 because there was the pagan sun god Mithra, right? Now, here's the thing about Mithra. Why I left Mithra separate from the rest of them. Mithra was supposed to be born of a virgin, born in a cave of a virgin on December 25th, right? And he died and was resurrected. Let me know if this story sounds familiar. He died and was resurrected in order to become a messenger of God. And he became the mediator between man and the good God or the God of light. All right. And his rival was the forces of evil. Y'all see that? So guess what? It's like the same thing as Jesus. Same day. So watch, but here's what people will do. No other religion talks about sin because sin is the key to this religion, to faith. You know what I'm saying? To this relationship. It's all about sin. Sin is the most important element. Nothing else covers sin. So that's why you know, because what they'll do is what the world does is they take and create something and make it be, they make it be retro before God. Oh, Jesus was created from Mithras. But the fact about the sin lets you know that they know about Jesus in order to create the story. Does that make sense to y'all? Y'all follow that? Y'all follow that? So anytime I hear something based on what they're saying, I know where it came from. Because I know, you know what the Bible says. So it's very clear. But when I talked to somebody and they was telling me Jesus wasn't born on Christmas. So because they want to put me in a box and make me be a Christian. So me saying, yeah, I know. They have no argument. Because they want to say that what you're believing is not true because Jesus wasn't born on Christmas. He didn't die on a Friday. You see what I'm saying? And based on those technicalities that the church has created, it creates a problem. Because and if you don't believe that it creates a problem, let's have a study about Easter and why Easter is not true. And I say that there's no such thing as Good Friday to people like my mom that have been in church all of these years. So when I dispel that, they start questioning what they believe. You know why? Because your faith was based on something that wasn't true. And after celebrating for something that's so long, I'll fight behind Good Friday. But then when you realize, okay, no such thing as Good Friday, this is how Satan is able to convert people in the church. And you go from being a witness of God, telling him witness about God's goodness, to now you listening to what he said. Oh, ain't no such thing as Good Friday? So now, guess what? You ain't even talking no more because you messed up. You know what I'm saying? You messed up. I ain't even talking no more. I'm not even talking no more. I'm listening to what you're saying. Oh, no. And then you know what he's going to say? Once I get your attention, man, come on, let me teach you the truth. And you know what? You're sitting there like, yeah, I want to know the truth. Oh, they've been lying to me all of this time? See, that's what happens in the church. Because you know why? Because studies like this, we don't really have them in the church. And that's the problem. Because we got to go back. You have to realize the church was, do y'all know the time period when the church was really established? Who was the
disciples?
No, the period, the civilization that was on the rise at the time. Constantine, Rome. Rome was the civilization.
Society, that means a lot to a lot of different people. Because once you're in whatever society you're in, it's connected to a bigger society. It's so interconnected. So the word for me, it goes back to the Jewish, but that's God's people, that's the society,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or even go back further, Adam and Eve, you know,
Mhm.
that's the society.
But here's something that we have to understand. I'm gonna answer that, but let me jump back to this. Being that Rome was the civilization at the time, a lot of things that we celebrate came from Rome.
Yeah.
Watch this. Rome was what? Or what society?
Gentile.
It was a pagan society. So Rome, you got a pagan society in the midst of the time when the church is being established. Y'all need people, right? Yeah, we got to grow this thing. So you know the best way that we can grow this thing is accept
Everybody.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
And what?
Add it to you.
Add Jesus to it.
Hallelujah.
We're gonna take it and we're gonna take. But the thing about when you start accepting something, you forget about what
Yeah.
was happening, and now you start believing it. You don't create something totally different. And when you create something totally different, what happens to Jesus? What happened to God?
It's not in the center.
It disappears because God was never in it. You see what I'm saying? And that's why even so many practices of the Catholic Church and stuff are out of order. Because of how it was established. But the thing is, here we are so many thousands of years later, we're not having this study. So guess what? You know what happens? We continue to celebrate it. We continue to celebrate it without knowing it. And so God is nowhere in it. So who are you really worshiping?
Because like you said, when you go to church, it's not the same study like this. You don't sit out, you know, so they get up there, they say, like you said, a lot of Christians in churches, like I was sending a message from the girl that's a pastor. You know what I'm saying? And they still turn it into something they know. I mean, where it's like they don't know, that they have nothing to do with Christ. Because she's a pastor and she still texts me back, still saying, like, this is the time, Ron G, you know, it's not about the gifts. They take that out. Because remember she told me, like, we don't do gifts. We don't do the tree. We just celebrate because Jesus is the reason for the season. But how?
But you're still celebrating.
Right. The same
Minus
thing-
whatever. So
same
how
thing
can
with
you
trunk or
take
treat.
part of it and say, okay, we're going to get rid of this part. We're going to still celebrate the holiday. But the holiday is in honor of.
Right.
We're going to still celebrate in honor of. We just not going to do
Same
this
thing
and
with
we're not going to do that.
Halloween. They call it Halloween, trunk or treat.
Yeah.
You know, you do all the stuff at the church, but you say it's not to celebrate Halloween.
Mhm.
It's just a harvest for the kids to come have fun where they don't have to go to the street.
But it doesn't make sense. But the
Like,
thing,
it's still the same thing.
but you know what? Let me tell you something. Here's what the enemy would do. The enemy always creates a distraction. Okay, I'm not going to celebrate this. Celebrate this. But it's still his distraction to take you from this to this. And so we know what this is, so I ain't going to celebrate that. Now, you got two forces. You got God and you got Satan. So because Satan names is on this, we'll celebrate this. Where's God at? You see what I'm saying? So we have to be careful with this. Okay, so watch this. So now here's the thing: the inconsistency over the day to celebrate Christmas. Let's go to this is going to involve the calendars. You had the Gregorian calendar, which was implemented by Pope Gregory the 13th. That was in 1582. This is some history for y'all. And before that, you had the Roman calendar, the Julian calendar. Well, what happened is when they switched from the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar, 10 days were lost. Y'all understand that? So the Julian calendar had 10 more days extra. So when they switched over, they took them 10 days away. So what happened with Christmas is you had the Orthodox Catholic Church, the Orthodox Jews that celebrated, not Jews, celebrated the 7th, the 6th of December, 6th, 7th of December. Y'all understand that? Then you have the Armenian Apostolic Church that celebrated the 6th. Okay, and even now to the day, it said that some of them still call it Old Christmas for that day. So watch this. Now let's go back to, let me tell you how these lies and stuff get mixed up. 12. The tradition became in the East that it was 12 wise men. That's what they said. It was 12 wise men. So you came up with the 12 days of Christmas from December 25th. How they moved it around. Y'all understand that? Now Epiphany. Anybody Catholic know about Epiphany? Okay, Epiphany January 6th was the day that they said the wise men showed up to Jesus, right? And this was also this is when they found out that he was actually God's son, right? So you seeing how these different dates come into play? Forget the fact that it's found on the wrong thing. Now let's justify why it is that. You see that? And here's the thing about a lie. Here's the thing about if you give people time, they can create something that sounds good. You know what's a good example? Y'all ever heard people that do the numbers and stuff like that? That people be talking about the numbers, the number 3, 3 is this, and it's also the number of the Trinity, and blah, blah, blah. You can do that with anything. You know what I'm saying? But guess what? If you're sitting there, most people are suckers for a good conversation.
Right.
And guess what? When you come and present it, and you know what you're talking about, I'm sitting there like, hey, you know what? Go give me some numbers. What they gave you was all nonsense, but you bought into it. Mm-hmm. You know why you bought into it? Why I got your attention? Because you paid attention to it. You see, I found out, I read that with the FBI, the counterfeit department that deal with the currency and stuff, they never study counterfeit money. Mm-hmm. They only study the real currency, the real notes. You know why? Because if I study the counterfeit and I study the regular, at a certain point, it's going to get confusing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why they never study it. Right. So by them just studying here, soon as they see it, they touch it, they know that it's fake. Mm-hmm. But how many times we'll listen to people? Just listen. Let me tell you. Because once you start to listen to something, it starts to take off. Remember this? Y'all, mm-hmm. Most of y'all old enough. The best part of waking up is what? Right? You get that? Folgers commercial. That was a long time ago. But who tried to learn it? Did you ever try to learn that? No, because that shows you that what we hear becomes a part of us.
That's with anything, with all the commercials.
That's with anything. So imagine listening. So imagine listening to the wrong thing. It's going to enter the same way, and if you're not careful, you'll begin to repeat it. Because that's why I asked how many wise men were there, and everybody said it was 3. You never read 3, but that's what you heard, and so you repeat what you heard. And that's how it happens. That's what happens with stuff, with things that are God. You know what I'm saying? We have to be careful because my people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. Mm-hmm. And when you don't know, you begin to add stuff. Mm-hmm. And don't let me see you in church every Sunday. And so I come up and ask you something about God and you don't know. You know what pride may tell you to do? Lie. Make something up. Lie. You lie and make something up. And so this person believing what you done said because to them, you the expert. So you know that? You know how many people I talk to and they tell me about my grandfather was a pastor? Oh, my so-and-so was a pastor. But I'm asking you. You see what I'm saying? Because they don't know. But like I said, once you get their attention, now here you go being converted again. And you know what? You know what's crazy? Those same people that get converted will come and talk to you and say, you know what? I used to be a Christian too. I was just like you. I was fighting too. Say, nah, you wasn't like me because I know the truth. You see what I'm saying? And so now they're trying to convert me with what worked on them. And I'm sitting there saying, wait a minute, nah, that's not true. Blah, blah, blah. You know, they're telling me Christianity is the white man religion. I'm like, really? That's amazing when white people didn't come along to 1600s. So how? First Bible written in 300 before there was white. Africa, what were we in Africa before we came to? Do we not see Egypt and stuff in the Bible?
Man, wow, man. Yeah, good stuff.
You see what I'm saying?
We was kings and queens.
We was kings and queens. If everybody was kings and queens, then kings and queens is tainted. Because there's no way I see, I'm coming to you out there. There's no way I see a woman that's on Facebook that's showing her body, and then somebody gonna come and tell me that's a queen. A queen, that's not how a queen acts. And if this is a queen, then okay, then that makes less of a real queen. You see what I'm saying? What you was about to say? Well, then I'm coming to you, Trey.
I've come to an understanding that the African American today are the real Jews, the real Hebrews of the Bible. We are from the tribe of Judah. If we, and I wish we could do a study on that, because about these last 4 or 5 months since I found out, I didn't start boxing with my boy. I didn't got turned up believing that I have the bloodline of Jesus Christ in me. And through the transatlantic slave trade, we came from Israel, and we may not even be African, but through the transatlantic slave trade, we came to America. The Europeans brought us to America, and the African American today is the true Hebrew.
Okay, let's.
Can I?
I'm gonna come back to you. Don't leave. Go ahead. Don't leave. I'm coming back to you.
I just want to say something before y'all take it. Now, whatever we find out and it's revealed, it will match God's pattern.
Yeah.
And God's pattern for the Israelites were, you know what? I'm going to open this up to the Gentiles. So God came for all of us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, I'm just saying. I'm not disputing. I'm just saying He came for all of us.
Yeah.
So when people, it doesn't matter to me if what tribe I came from. I know that either or, I'm in there, because God opened it up for whosoever will.
Okay.
So that's what I mean. Sometimes things can be distracting.
Okay. Watch this.
But it's
Now,
good.
now let me show you something. Okay. I want to show you something since you brought that up. Go to Romans 2:29 while we having this conversation. Let me explain something to you. Okay. Let me tell you why. We were taught that what? Now I'm talking about black people. We were taught that what? We were nothing. We were slaves. We was in the jungles of Africa. We were what they called it.
Savages.
We were savages, incapable of learning. So watch this. That's what we were taught. Now watch this. You know what the Hamitic curse is?
Mm-hmm.
Hamitic curse said that we became slaves because of Ham. Okay, so watch this. In the 1800s, they came up with the Hamitic hypothesis, right? So this was the white folks saying that, okay, wait a minute. When they realized, because we were savages, we were ignorant. When they realized about the Egyptian civilization, which we know now to be all black people, right? When we look at it, they're all black. But guess what? Back then it was different. And I'm going to tell you why it was different. You know why it was different? Because even we saw Jesus in them here in Egypt. Everybody was hiding in places. They was always hiding. Throughout the Bible, you see that they were mistaken for other people. So you know how the people were distinguished? By their dress. Okay, so watch this. So that means that the people looked alike. It wasn't anything about how you look, right? Because understand this, slavery taught us white and black. So now we think everything to be white or black. So that's why we want to make Jesus. Was he white or black? It's beyond this. So watch this. The Hamitic hypothesis said that when they found out how intelligent these black people was, they said, okay, wait a minute. We can't understand how they did. We don't understand the formats, the formulas for these pyramids. They said that, you know what? Okay, they wasn't savage. They mixed with some white people. And that's where they got their intelligence from. So they're still saying that black people are what? Ignorant. Hold on, Trap. Hold on. They're still saying that black people are ignorant. So watch what happens. You get down to the 60s, which was what? The movement for black people. This what James Brown them, I'm black and I'm proud, say it loud. All of this started happening in the 60s. We started being, so by the time we hit the 70s, we are proud people. Right? Now here's the thing. In the midst of, so since then what is happening, now we're trying to, because we believe that we were nothing, we were savages, we were all of these things. So now we're going back in history and holding on to the things, the moments of brilliance. That's why you got the what you call them, the ones that want to be the Kemits. They want to be Kemits because of Egypt. Now, and the latest thing is because now which is very popular, the Jews, the Hebrew Israelites. Because guess what? Now this is God people. But here's the thing. I'm going to tell you why. The thing is, it's unnecessary. You know why? Because, see, we're fighting from a position of black and white. See, this is, I told somebody the other day. You can't win in this world that the white man created.
Right.
He created him to be superior and you inferior. So as long as you're fighting from that position, you can't win because why? He's created him superior. I said it's just like in the casino. In the casino, the odds are not in your favor. Some might get lucky and win, but for the majority, the odds are not in your favor, so you can't win. So the thing is, we're coming from that position of abuse, trying to hold on. I am somebody. But when you go back to God's word, God said it's separated between God and those that oppose God. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at, hey, how you doing? When you look at what scripture I gave you, Romans 2:29. Look, when you look at Romans 2:29, it says that, but he is a Jew which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men but of God. So if God told you that, you know who the Jews are? It's those that accept Jesus. You become the spiritual Jews. So now the thing is, we have a right to salvation.
Right. Yeah. And I
You see?
agree totally with that. I mean, I'm just coming from a standpoint of us as black people and what these big, exactly, knowing who we are and where we came
When
from.
we
Like
read
the wine,
Deuteronomy
the fresh
28,
Deuteronomy
Deuteronomy
exactly.
28,
And then
we could
Revelation
put-
2:9.
we could put
Revelation
ourselves
2:9
there, yes.
talking about the
Right.
pick and choose.
We could.
Right.
Run this world down.
but it's not
To
concrete.
me, y'all off base. Because first of all, it's not no black and white. Do you know where the color came from?
It came from slavery.
No, you know where the color came from. For our color, it's because we lived in Egypt. So the sun was so hot.
Yes.
So they had to tan our skin to keep us from blistering up. When you go on the other side of the continent, it's cold. They high yellow,
Right.
and that's where the color barrier came from.
But watch this.
You don't really know white and black.
Right. Listen, but you're talking about the melanin in the skin. That's what you're talking about. You're talking about the melanin in the skin that gives the skin its color.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, that's why. Guess what? You can see some people that look white, but guess what? Their skin is dark, and that's because, like he said, it's that melanin. But guess what? Those people are not black. See what we're doing now, since we know Africa is black, we're trying to go back in history and make all of that be
Retrofit.
black fit. Retrofit. That's what we're trying to do. But it can't. But the thing is, see, we have to understand who we are. We don't, because see, even with that, well, black people, we got to stick together, blah, blah, blah. We're still, because you know what? Here's the thing. Who taught you were black? The slave master taught you were black. So you wasn't black. You wasn't black until they made you black. So now here we are, all of these years, even when we're trying to stake claim to different things, we're still trying to do it from inside their system. You see what I'm saying? And that's where we go wrong, because once again, he's created superior to us, and you trying to fit in and fight and win a battle in his system, you can't. You see what I'm saying? So the part, I think the most important thing is us knowing who we really are but you got to get that through the word, because guess what? If God is your father, God created you, then he's going to tell you who you are. Because if you look in the Bible never said anything about black and white, but they said it did. But we couldn't read, so guess what? My people are destroyed because of lack of knowledge. Well, they said, so then we saw buying into it. You see what I'm saying? And that's where I think that's where we go wrong. Because our emotions cause problems. Because I can ask you this question, and this is going to be like real deep. Does God care about Black Lives Matter?
I can't say.
See, but the thing is, you know what you're thinking about? Black people are being oppressed. A good God gotta care about me. You know what I'm saying? Because really you're thinking about you and God. I just happen to be black, so God gotta care about me. But then you magnify it to being the rest of the Black Lives Movement. But I'm gonna tell you, here's the thing. Here's the issue that I have with Black Lives Matter. All black people not right. All white people not wrong. But Black Lives Matter is causing us to choose. Black lives versus everybody. Okay, black person, police. You know what I'm saying? Who you gonna choose? You gotta choose one. No, that's not how it is. You know what I'm saying? But once again, we're fighting from in that system, an unfair system, and our emotions are causing us to make decisions. Because my thing is, guess what? If you really look at it, we see sometimes, well, he was wrong for that. But guess what? I'm not gonna go along with him because we black. And so a lot of times, you know what we'll do? We'll remain silent. I'd rather not really say anything.
Be salt and light.
You know what I'm saying? But guess what? It goes back to that king and queen thing. Everybody not a king and a queen.
Because in a kingdom, there have to be one king and one queen. Everybody, the whole kingdom can't be kings and queens. I mean,
Right.
who the peasants? Who the...
Right. You got to have people on a different level. But my thing is, the point is that once we know who we truly are, but we only find that out through God. And we can't buy into it because, I'm saying, it started off God, Satan. But what has happened is you got religion, right? So we got all of these different religions on God's side. So watch. Instead of being God versus Satan, you have atheists, Satan, you have God, all of these different religions. That's creating a problem. So now the different religions are supposed to be on God's side, but they're fighting amongst one another to say who's the true religion. Okay, let's go break it down further. Then we get black and white. So even inside of say if it was 100 religions, you got 100 religions now, black and white. You got 200 religions because we got a black church and a white church. We got black and white back. You see how we continue to be separated because now if I can keep you divided, the enemy has a greater chance of defeating you once you're divided. And that's what's happening even when race. Race done came and divided us further. So everything that we see, and we can't help to see because we know how much of stuff is unfair. But the thing is, we see the injustice and then we magnify it. Because if I shoot you, you should be upset with me for shooting you. You don't go and attack Smith & Wesson and go out there and boycott Smith & Wesson. Smith & Wesson had nothing to do with it. This is an isolated incident. So everything, instead of being isolated, we magnify and make them representative. Oh, he represents white people. They did it to black people. And that's the thing is we can't get over it because we keep having reminders. We keep having reminders. Every week we see something happening between a police or somebody white and the black people. Every week. And now with social media, people say that stuff that's happening now is new. No, it's just that we have access to it now.
Exactly.
It's been happening.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we have to, the thing is we have to be conscious of that. You know what I'm saying?
Just to go back to his point, it is genetically impossible for a white man to have came from a black person.
Right.
And then they found that to be true. But one other point, the lost books of the Bible, Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilee. These are books that I'm saying these white people done took from us, which should be there. I haven't read it personally, but my brother, he just finished the book of Jasher, and he just finished the book of Enoch, and all the implications of black people and how it pertains to us today is amazing. And I encourage everyone, I mean, even myself, I'm going to get the book of Jasher, the book of Enoch, and the book of Jubilee. I'm saying, and I think it's important that we read those as well.
Okay, all right, let me say, so watch this. Here's the thing about the Bible. You have to realize, okay, when the Council of Nicaea met, okay, they agreed on what should go into the Bible. And it was a bunch of different scholars, but it was a bunch of different standards that they had to go through. And the most important thing was, that's why you see in the Bible, like I say, it's 66 books about the same thing. It had to, certain things, nothing in the Bible is just an isolated thing that ain't nowhere in there. So even with some of these books, they didn't measure up with the time that was going on. And plus, because now we know with Enoch is mentioned in the Bible, but only because of his faith, his walk with God. You see what I'm saying? But the thing is, when it came down to who else he was, you got to realize the Bible is strategic. You know what I'm saying? It was something missing with that. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is, when they, like I said, when they measured up with time, because some of the writings lets you know that it was later than with the time, because that's another thing that they did. They matched it with the period. Let me see what they was talking about, because even when we read the Bible, that's why I was telling about the Magi, because it was parallel to what was going on in history. You see what I'm saying? But some of these things, some of the books that were left out, because there was there's some more. There's like Maccabees and there's more books. You know what I'm saying? But the thing is that they didn't measure up to what they was, and they found something inconsistency, which is why, or the writer or whatever, is why they left them out.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
I asked my brother that specific question, like, did anything contradict, King James, you know what I'm saying, King James version, and he said no. He said it didn't contradict. He said the book of Enoch ran straight in line, but it's giving us more information. You know what I'm saying, as true as Hebrew, as the true Hebrew.
Okay, watch this. I would want to talk to you, brother, because I'm gonna tell you why. This King James Bible came along in 1608. Even from 1608 to 1629, it changed. That's why you see Jesus wasn't in 1608. Jesus showed up in 1629. Aisa was in 1608. But watch this. When you go to the Latin Vulgate, which was in 3-something, it's a little bit different from the King James. You see what I'm saying? So, and this is what I do, because I do a lot of stuff, because I'll listen to something, but like I said, when I'm listening, I'm processing it with what I know. And so what I did is, even with Easter, because Easter is in the King James, but it's a European thing. It's not in the Latin Vulgate, because you realize that the people wasn't in town for Easter; they was in town for the Passover. So how did we get Easter? That even when I saw Easter, I'm like, okay, wait, because Jewish custom and traditions. You see what I'm saying? So I would like to talk to your brother. I sit down and talk to him. But like I said, a lot of things, we have to sit there, and when we go through different things, sometimes it's easy to see why. Sometimes it's not. But certain stories, because there's also I saw a book about Mary. Mary had a book. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. But I won't talk to you, man. But so did everybody get something from today? Anybody learned anything?
Take a look at the news. Crime is at an all-time high. We can't keep pretending.